Hello, and on the gaming table today, just a quick look at a Command Decision Tester Battle solo game that I put together for myself. I wanted to roll some dice for Command Decision Tester Battle, so this is kind of what I came up with. So basically here on the table, I put down a bunch of dummy Soviet markers. So each of these little markers, the little men you can see here, is a marker that might turn into something during the game. It'll be like roll a dice when we get close or when the Soviet player wants to activate this, and we'll see what it becomes. So there are also some vehicle stands here, the T-34s. So there's kind of some vehicles that could pop up there, and everything else is basically infantry or guns or maybe a mortar or something like that. I had a little table that I would roll against to see what was there, and then kind of play proceeded from that point. So let's take a look at what the Germans have got. So here the Germans have a basic battalion of infantry. These will be motorized infantry, so there'll be higher rate of fire. And also they've got a company of tanks here. So just the models that I have. So in this case, a Panzer II and a couple of Panzer 38Ts. Also here, added in an extra 5cm anti-tank gun for the Germans. But apart from that, it's pretty normal. Bunch of soft vehicles if we need them during the game. And just to mention the troop qualities, the Germans will be veteran morale 9. For the Soviets, all the personnel stands will be regular morale 8, and any tanks that appear, they'll be trained morale 8. So this is kind of like a 1941 battle. So here's the first moves going on as a couple of the German companies move onto the table. The basic German objectives here, there are kind of some built-up areas along this road here, and the Germans have to take control of all of those. And essentially, in that way, they're going to be driving the Soviets off the table if they manage to do that. So for the first couple of Soviet reveals, at the top there was a 45mm anti-tank gun on that little mound at the top of the screen there that appeared and started taking pot shots at the infantry company that was in front of it with its HE shells. The German company managed to get pinned by the 45mm anti-tank gun, so initial success for the Soviets there, although they weren't causing any casualties at this stage. As the Germans brought their tank company on, a Soviet 76mm infantry gun got revealed on the hill next to the little town in the middle there. And so that started to suppress the Germans that were in the orchard. And at that point, the Germans were trying to figure out the best way forward. So obviously you don't take the tanks toward the anti-tank gun, so they're going to swing them around towards the bottom of the screen on the right flank here. Kind of in the foreground here, the first German company has a go at moving into the larger village here. Their orders went down before the Soviets inside were revealed through the dice rolls. There are two companies of Soviets in there, as well as a battalion commander. And so the Germans suffered their first casualty here as one of these stands got gunned down on the approach. And that kind of held them up there. They're not obviously going to charge into the town here. Also on the road there, the rest of the companies of the battalion have come on, so the support company, and also the last of the infantry companies swinging towards the orchard as well. At this stage, many more Soviet units have been revealed. There's an infantry company at the tree line at the top, there's an infantry company at the bottom of the screen in the woods, and also an 82mm mortar for the Soviets, which starts shooting at the Germans and then immediately runs out of ammo, the little red marker. The German 8cm mortar, suppressing the 76mm infantry gun, also runs out of ammo pretty quickly, but fortunately they've got a truck. They can go back and get some reloads for that. At the top, the German company is still tied down by that 45mm anti-tank gun, and also one of the vehicles on the Soviet side has been revealed as a company of T-26 tanks. Just at the point where the Germans are going to move their tanks around the corner here, the Soviets will also bring their tanks up beside the village, and then there'll be a bit of a shooting duel goes on there for a little while. Also, the 76mm infantry gun, in the pause while the German 8cm mortar was out of ammo, managed to knock out the German 7.5cm infantry gun and its tow, so that was another casualty for the Germans at this stage. At the top of the screen, it took a little while with shooting, but eventually the 45mm anti-tank gun got eliminated there, and then the Germans could move forward, just being opposed by that Soviet company in the tree line. At the bottom, the company in the woods, the Soviet company there, managed to suppress the tanks when the tanks got close, and so the T-26s moved to a hold-down position on the hill, and then there was some shooting between the two there. So the suppression on the Germans kind of cancelling out their benefits and their kind of quality factor versus the Soviet tanks there. At the top of the screen, the German company up there, they'd eliminated the anti-tank gun, but then it took a little while to kind of get back into organisation again, back into command, before they could push on to that little piece of high ground there. In the village, a combination of fire and enemy close caused one of the Soviet companies to break. They fell back shaken, the orange markers, but the German infantry couldn't follow up at that point because they'd get mowed down by the T-26s, obviously. You'll notice the white puff in the middle of the table there, where the German 8cm mortar keeps suppressing the Soviet 76mm infantry gun. That was quite handy because that basically meant that that gun couldn't really hit anything, couldn't really affect anything other than just give it some basic suppression. So that kind of kept it out of the game. It took a little while for the 3rd German company there to get into the woods and take out the Soviets there. Meanwhile, the gun duel was going on between the tanks. You can also see the 2 trucks towing the German anti-tank guns moving up. Eventually they get behind the orchard, and then the German crews try to manhandle them into the orchard to try and tip the scales against those Soviet T-26s on the hill. Basically just more shooting to hopefully try and get them out of that position. Infantry at the bottom of the table was slowly clearing out the woods at the bottom so that then hopefully it wouldn't suppress the lots of firing at the bottom of the screen. Took a little while, but eventually, after one of the T-26s ran out of ammo, then the Germans managed to get enough hits in and actually take out one of those tanks. And at that point, the kind of the Soviet position started to break down. They were pushing units into the village, but then they were getting driven back as well. And then here we're starting to get pretty close to the end here. At the top of the screen, the Germans have driven off the infantry company that was behind the tree line there, killed off one of the stands and pushed it back. At the bottom here, the tanks eventually knock out the 2nd T-26, as you can see, and that will cause the other one here to decide to disengage shortly and try and make a run for it. At that point, the kind of the right flank here for the Germans was pretty clear, and they were able to start moving in towards the village here. They managed to move that company that was at the bottom of the screen in the woods there into a position where it could see behind the village. It started using its machine gun there, machine gun platoon, to do some damage to the Soviet infantry in behind. So that was causing more problems for the Soviets. The panzers were slowly moving up here, and the infantry was getting ready to make a move into the village. And then when they did that, they all moved up. There was still some enemy close enough to kind of take some pot shots at them. No damage caused. Unfortunately, all of the units on the German side there get pinned, pretty much. So that kind of is going to delay the advance for a couple of turns while they recover from that pin status. And so at this stage, I decided, let's call it there. The Soviets don't have much left. They've lost more than half their force, and the Germans are still pretty intact. And given enough time here, the Germans will walk into the village. So I decided to call the battle here. So at the end of the day, fun little, dice rolling exercise, a little bit of fun, just by myself playing Command Decision Tested Battle. It's a game I do like, and so I'm always happy to keep playing it. I really need to paint up some more vehicles for other periods and things, but I'll get onto that soon. Anyway, hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.